Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, guys. I know it's been a while since I made a video. I kind of took a little bit of a break um, from content during like the past week or so, which obviously was not the best time because it was post CWL Dallas, things like that. So I'm gonna have a bunch of videos coming out in the next couple of days, and then I actually made an appearance on a podcast, which I won't talk too much about. But that episode of the podcast that I featured on is coming out January 1st, so you'll also be able to see that coming up in a couple days' time as well. But for this video, the topic is going to be CWL Dallas slash Northern Arena slash like basically everything that I haven't covered since then. And I'm gonna probably try to break this up into maybe two videos, um, or like a two-part video to kind of explain it, so I can get like all of my thoughts out if I feel that's necessary. And then I'm also planning on making a Roster Mania video and probably more of a Roster Mania series of videos because um, at the point that I'm making this video, which is 1 p.m. on December 24th, there hasn't really been too many like announcements. It's actually mostly just been people like playing in um, the UMG variant tournament or scrimming with teams, but they're unconfirmed. And then on top of that, it's been like teams leaving and things like that. So I'll make a video on that though. That's a separate video, and that all that coverage will be coming uh, later and on a different video. So this video, like I said before, is about CWL Dallas and about the Northern Arena or CWL Montreal event that happened both about a week ago, 2 weeks ago, basically. Um, so I guess I'll start with CWL Dallas because that was the farther one. Um, so obviously Team Caliber won the whole event. Splice got second, Optic Gaming got third, and FaZe Clan got fourth. That was your top four. And then fifth, sixth was Echo Fox United, and seventh, eighth was Team Envious Luminosity. And I'm actually gonna just start kind of with Team Envious and Luminosity, so like seventh, eighth, and kind of work my way up from what I think so far. So Team Envious is an interesting one to start at. Actually, I'm rocking my Envy jersey. I think this is the 16-17 one anyway, but regardless, the Team Envious is an interesting place to start because Team Envious is a team who obviously this lineup had fairly good success in Advanced Warfare near the end of it and made a lot of like kind of waves, I guess is what you would call it, when they announced that they were going to be bringing this team back together. Like most analysts and casters expect this team to be top three, top four just right off the start. And so far, they have not done that, obviously. I think they have one top four in a 2K. And besides that, it's been like all what you see here, seventh, eighths. And then at Northern Arena, of course, they got five, six. So um, it's it's interesting because Team Envious, you think about this team and you've got two players who are kind of returning to Call of Duty competitively in a sense. I mean, Temp, obviously, like throughout all the Jetpack games, he played eights and things like that. Like he was constantly playing with pros, but he wasn't on a competitive team, right? He wasn't learning the meta. And there's certainly a difference between playing eights and playing on an actual competitive team in a competitive LAN environment. We all know that, right? And then obviously Hugh went to go play Halo and had massive success there. Um, so these two are coming back, and they're not. I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to say they're underperforming because they're playing decent. But when you have players like Hugh and Temp, you probably expect them to have over a 1.0 KD at most events. And so far, they again haven't really done that. They haven't really shown us um, their, I think, complete potential and their complete return to Call of Duty, and I don't think should be a surprise to anyone. I think that these two players are on their way back slowly and surely, and I think if they just keep this lineup, generally speaking, they should be fine moving forward. Because obviously Slasher has been like the main talking point of this team as far as stats are concerned because he's been amazing. I mean, he had like I know over a 1.2 KD at Dallas. I think it was a 1.28, and then at Montreal he had a really high KD as well. Again, over 1.0. I think it was like 1.2 something again, as I believe might have been a little bit lower, but definitely over 1.0 is the point I'm trying to make. So he is doing very well, and he is playing at a extremely high level on this game, like looking like one of the best ARs, which is hard um, when you have one of the best ARs on a team that's very underperforming. But the last player that really should not be like undervalued, I think, is Classic. And the thing with Classic is um, he is back to making poor decisions. Not necessarily. Well, see, I shouldn't call it poor decisions, right? Because the thing with Classic is he's underperforming in comparison to how he was performing in Jetpacks. I mean, right now he's sitting at like a .88, I believe, at CWL Dallas, and I think something right around there again um, at the CWL Montreal event. So Classic is kind of in a position now where he is not making good plays at all times, and he's making mostly um, like I don't know how to explain it. Like he there's something that's not going well in his game, and for that reason, it's really making him suffer. So Team Envious is kind of in a situation where they don't really have the ability to create almost a full dynamic, right? Like they're missing a link somewhere, and it's becoming a real problem for them, I think. Um, but the next team is Luminosity, and Luminosity is at a point where they they're kind of where I expected them to be. I think CWO Dallas was very much an underperformance on their part, but they will be kind of elevating themselves into that top four area, which is kind of where I expected them. And of course, they did that. They won CWL Montreal, which was a really good event for them. And overall, they just really outperformed most of the teams that I thought they would at that event. I mean, obviously, like when you look on paper, that they're probably the team to beat at that event. I would guess. Besides, most people like might have said E United, and then some people might have said FaZe just purely based off the placings at Dallas, because of course, going into that Montreal event, FaZe was the highest placing team um, from CWL Dallas. But for if you're like a Luminosity fan, or if you're watching this kind of and you're kind of unsure about Luminosity's ability and Luminosity's placings, I think Luminosity is a top four, top six kind of team all year. And the thing with Luminosity is they have that exact same feeling to me as these Envy teams did in Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare, where like you don't really know what to expect from them necessarily all year. Um, but I think by the end of the year, we'll see Luminosity probably become like that Envy COD champs sort of team when they are just like erupting and being like really good and just being like a dominant squad for their organization. And I expect big things from Luminosity, I suppose, as the year goes on. Is kind of the point I'm trying to make. So United, they got fifth, sixth. So we're into kind of that tier. But E United is a team where I really don't put a lot of stock into them, to be quite honest with you. They are kind of, it's hard to say. So they are fairly inconsistent, I would say, is the best way to put it. I mean, Clay running a sub is always going to lead to some inconsistencies, obviously, because he's always been like a dominant AR. So I think a lot of people, like a lot of analysts, a lot of casters are just saying, Clay should switch back to the AR, things like that. Like the sub um, doesn't work as well or isn't as consistent as you really need at a pro level. And I honestly would tend to agree. But I think Arcides has been a pretty good AR most games. But generally speaking, I think that the Twins in general just are kind of the determining factor of how good and how far this team can go in tournaments. Like when the Twins don't play well, they seem to struggle a lot against good teams. And I think more than it just being the twins, I think Silly and Clay, even though Clay is a little bit inconsistent with a sub, he's still like more consistent than them. And Silly has actually been pretty good in most games. I think he's been fairly consistent with his numbers. But I think most of it actually is more pristine than Arcides. Like Arcides has had really good events and really good games overall, I would say, with the AR. But I think when you start playing those really good teams that have top ARs, like Formal, like Crim, um, like Tommy, Bance, obviously, um, Accuracy, Chino, who have been good. Slasher, another one, Octane. All of these like basically the AR players of the top 8 teams. Like when they start playing these teams, they're gonna struggle, and I think we are seeing that come to fruition. Um, just in the last 2 events alone. So NOLA will be interesting because obviously it's the last event for Pro League, and I thought if we were gonna see a roster change from this team, which I didn't really expect. Like, I think the only thing that would have happened was this team is if Clay got an offer to join a team and he kind of couldn't refuse the offer. Like, imagine if TK wins and they want to get better, so they try to improve. Like maybe they drop Theory for Clay. Something like that. Obviously, this is all theoretical, and I'm not even saying that TK should make a move, but you know what I'm saying, right? Like. From Clayster's position, he just could not refuse an offer to join TK, things like that. So that was kind of the only move I saw was that if Clayster did move to a different team, that uh, there would be a new dynamic on E United, and they would probably like start to fall off a little bit. But this team obviously is staying together. They don't plan on changing, and they are going to CWL NOLA. Um, and hoping to qualify for Pro League. And I think they will qualify for Pro League. I don't think that's like a bold prediction or anything. They're, like I said, a top 6, top 8 team, probably closer to like top 8, top 12 than top 6, in my opinion. But they did finish sixth, fifth, sixth, I should say, at at this event. So that's fair play to them, and we'll see if they can continue it. And then Echo Fox is the next team that finished fifth, sixth, and I'm not going to talk too much about them, mostly just because I saw that there was a rumor that this Echo Fox team is going to be making changes potentially, and I don't really know anything too much more than that. But I'm going to leave Echo Fox out of the conversation. One for the purpose of time, and two for the purpose of just they played at Dallas with their like official lineup at the current moment, and then they used a stand-in for Montreal. They used Gunjar obviously instead of Saints. Um, but overall, I don't really want to go, like I said, too deep into them just because they are potentially making a roster change according to rumors and things like that. So I'm going to skip them for now. So fourth is FaZe Clan, and FaZe Clan they're kind of in the same boat as E United for me, where I don't know if they'll make a lot of good placings this year. Um, and it's a little bit different of issues with E United, or than E United, excuse me, because E United's problems I think lie in inconsistencies. FaZe Clan I think gets pretty consistent performances, um, but I just haven't really seen anything from any of these players really, except for maybe Zuma, that like points out to me that this team has the players to make a deep run. I mean, Attach has had like some like random good performances. Priesta has had like some random good performances. Um, but overall, I haven't seen like the overall consistency level from them. And even Zuma, who um, I just said is probably like the highest level player on this team, even he has had some like lower performances. But I think the main reason that this team did so well at CWL Dallas, and it's part of the reason I don't really buy into them, is the fact that Replays had like a unbelievable event with an AR, which I mean, this is like the best event Replays has probably ever had, um, or one of them. So for that reason, like I don't really buy into them because of that, and I don't think that they really have like that kind of next level skill to just like if I'm putting phase against optic, I don't think I'm ever going to take phase. Like even phase against splice or TK, like I don't really want to take phase in those matchups because I don't think the the skill level is like top 3 skill level, right? Like obviously FaZe can beat probably any other team, but when you get to Optic Splice TK, I don't think FaZe has the teamwork or the in TK's case or just the overall skill in Splice and Optic's case to kind of match with them gun for gun. So then we'll talk about Optic and Splice. I'm going to try to put them together to kind of, like I said, make this video go a little bit quicker, try to keep it under 20 minutes. Um, so Optic and Splice. If you're an Optic fan, to keep it short and simple, I'd say don't be worried. I think Optic will probably win NOLA. I don't see a reason why they wouldn't, other than if Team Caliber still gets the better of teams and still is surprising teams with pick and ban, right? Because I think the reason Team Caliber won Dallas was basically the pick and ban system working in their favor and their incredible ability to play any game type on Arden's Forest. I mean, Arden's Forest was essentially, their like home field advantage map. Essentially, like anytime they played Arden's Forest, it just seems like it was almost an automatic W for them. So, you know, Optic fans, don't be worried. I think you'll be fine. You just play the pick and bans a little bit better, and you should be good to go at CWL NOLA. I know TP obviously joined them as coach. He's going to be helping them a lot with the pick and bans, I think, and kind of trying to keep the egos at bay, I guess is what you would call it. Obviously, because when you have players like this who have won so many events over the past 3 years and are staying together as a team and things like that, and you know, I mean, they're constantly gassed up as the best team in the game, and they deserve it, right? They obviously should be considered the best team in the game, and um, they certainly deserve that title. Obviously, of course, being reigning world champions as well. Um, they are they make a little bit of ego picks sometimes. I think in the pick and ban at Dallas, I think they kind of saw maps. And they were just like, well, it doesn't really matter what map it is because we're the best team, we have the best gun skill. We'll just beat them. We'll let them pick whatever. Let's just pick the maps we don't want to play versus the maps that we think versus looking at the matchups and trying to figure out what maps work best in their favor or what maps the other team is actually the weakest at. So I think Teep will help them with that a lot. Uh, I think they probably would have done it if Teep wasn't there, but I think TP as not being a player and just being able to watch them and figure out and also watch other teams, he's going to give them like a really big advantage in these map vetoes going forward. And then to touch on Splice, they they're going to be a top 4 team all year. I mean, they're Europe's finest. Like if you were picking a European All-Star team, it's probably just Splice, which is what you want from a European team to try to compete. For them, I don't really have too much to say on them. I mean, they got top 4. I expect them to get top 4 all year. I think they could win an event in the same way that I didn't think they would win an event in Infinite Warfare, and then they won Season 1. So, in the same way that I, didn't really expect them to win an event, but then they did in Infinite Warfare, I kind of have them in the same place here. Like, I don't know that, like, I won't probably guess them to win any event, uh, like, in a pre tournament prediction kind of thing. But if they win the event, I'm not going to be surprised. I mean, they almost had the chance to win this one. If they could just close out that game 5, they would have been on top of it. Um, so Splice, T4 all year shouldn't be a problem. We'll see if they win an event though. I doubt it, but it could happen, of course. And then Team Caliber is the last team, and Team Caliber is very interesting because they are now in a position where they have to not only get better because everyone is going to be watching them and everyone's going to know that they love Arden's Forest and that they play these map vetoes very tactically, but also that they now are in a position where uh, there's a lot of pressure on them to perform, right? Because they have to repeat as champions. Like you can't just 3-0 Optic and win the tournament. You can't do both those things and then not have this pressure on you of we have to go out and win. We have to go out and prove that we really are the best team. and that Optic really does have a team to worry about. And I think there's certainly a chance that they win it. Like, I'm not going to completely discredit them. I just think that Optic has the better chance going into CWL New Orleans. But I mean, for Dallas purposes, because obviously they didn't go to Montreal. For Dallas purposes, they were by far the best team. They used the most tactics in the map vetoes. They had, I think, probably the best sub player in the whole tournament. It's probably a toss up between Kenny. Jerd was pretty good as well. So those two were kind of like the best two. Um, but they had probably the best sub player at the whole tournament in Kenny. They had uh, again, amazing map vetoes, an amazing record on one particular map, and more than anything else, teams didn't really seem to have the ability to match their teamwork, which I think is a big thing. That's like the big thing that can carry them forward, because obviously now teams are going to start taking map vetoes a little bit more seriously, I think, and teams are going to start really trying to figure out what other teams' best maps are, banning those maps, things like that. And I think Arden's Forest is going to be a map that we don't see TK play a whole lot anymore, just because of how dominant they were at it at CWL Dallas. But they have the teamwork, which is why they can still go far in tournaments, which is why they can still win New Orleans. Because, even when you take them to a map that they don't play, like in CWL Dallas, they pretty much perma banned London Docks. Even if you take them to London Docks, we've seen, granted online, but we've seen that they can perform with the best team on London Docks, and they're not scared to necessarily play that map. I think they just did those bans just to make teams uncomfortable, which is when you start making bans to make teams uncomfortable versus trying to pick better maps for yourself, that's when you are at that top level and you know that you are one of the best teams in the game. And so for that reason, I think that they have a lot to look forward to, and I think fans have even more to look forward to when CWL New Orleans begins.